Hi, my name's Kevin. I'm the owner of ACES Flight Training. I'm also the flight coordinator. I get a lot of questions about how do I become a pilot. One of the first things is you have to meet the Federal Aviation Administration requirements, and they have standards that are met in order to become a certificated private pilot. One of the things is you must be 17 years of age to become a private pilot. Doesn't mean you have to wait until you're 17 to start your training. You can start your training prior to 17. In fact, you can solo an airplane at 16 years old, and we have many that have done that. But to become a certificated pilot, that can only happen as of your 17th birthday. One of the other requirements is you have to have at least a third-class medical from an aviation medical examiner. So there is a medical requirement. It's relatively simple. You go and you visit with the aviation medical examiner. He gives you a checkup, and provided that there's nothing that they want to look at or investigate further, they will usually give you your third-class medical that day. So another question I get a lot of is, how long does it take? Well, the FAA required minimum 40 hours of training time in the airplane can be accomplished in a lot of different ways. There are people that fly once a week. There are people that fly a couple of times a day. It's really up to you. Some people train between 8 to 5 Monday through Friday, and some people train on the weekends. It's really a go at your pace type of training setup. So we do recommend that you fly at least an hour a week, just so that you don't spend the entire next lesson rehearsing what you did in the last lesson. I'm here with Dave White, one of our instructors at ACES Flight Training. I'd like to get him to talk a little bit about some of the questions that he had when he started looking into becoming a pilot, and why he chose the flight school that he did, and maybe some of the hurdles that he faced along the way during the process.
Thanks for asking me, Kevin. There's a lot of things you have to consider when you're joining a new flight school. You have to consider the size of the fleet of the flight school. How often are those maintained? What's the quality of the aircraft? And also the availability of the instructors. These are questions you might not think about until you're training. A lot of flight instructors use that career as a stepping stone to the airlines. Usually they're a flight instructor for maybe about 2 years. So if you get an instructor who's on the tail end of that time, you might be looking for a new instructor maybe 2 or 3 months into your training.
All right. Happens a lot.
Yeah, and we have multiple choices of aircraft here at ACES. We have high wing, low wing. A lot of people have preferences on that. Here we have options, and all of our aircraft are well maintained, and I think it's a great choice.
So not only can you come to ACES Flight Training to get your private pilot's license, which you can use to take your family and your friends on interesting trips, but you can also become a career pilot through ACES. We can continue your training after your private pilot's license for your instrument, your multi-engine, your commercial, so that you can have a career in the airlines if that's what you choose. Or you could stay here at ACES and become a flight instructor.
Some additional information that you might not know is that the airlines are desperate for pilots right now. There's a massive shortage in the industry, and they're hiring like crazy. It's a really great time right now to get into aviation as a career. When I joined 3 years ago, I started as a private pilot with zero knowledge. Now here I am CFIing, and I'm looking at a future at the airlines in maybe a year or two. Now, another piece that you might not know is that you're not required to have a degree for any of this.
Right.
At the majors, some of them prefer, but at the moment, I know some people are getting hired without degrees. So
that's correct.
I was a pretty bad student in school.
Right.
Turns out I'm a great pilot. And
right.
I think it's a great idea for somebody who's not sure what they want to do with their life yet.
A lot of it just depends on aptitude. Some people just get it and it comes easy for them, and some people have to work a little bit harder at it. But it's not driving a car necessarily simple, but it's not as complex as people make it out to be. One of the biggest questions I get asked is, what does it cost to become a pilot? Our rates at ACES are very competitive. We average $130 per hour for the airplane and $50 an hour for the instruction. You're required to have 40 hours minimum instruction by the FAA. So if you multiply those numbers, you'll get a good idea of what you should budget before you begin your training. Why ACES? Why should I choose you over the several other flight training locations in the area? ACES is very competitively priced, but that's not the best part. The best part is we offer many options as far as flight training airplanes at multiple locations. But the common response I get from people for why they chose ACES, it's because we have a very relaxed, family, fun, friendly type of environment here that puts everybody at ease. Nobody wants to take flying lessons and feel like they're sitting in the principal's office while they're in the airplane. Chemistry is very important, so we try to focus on bringing in instructors that fit with our style of training. Safety is always first, but we think you should have fun during your training as well, and we think we can do both. We don't have to sacrifice one for the other.